Call order the Catawba County Board of Education meeting for the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting. Please stand for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. Next item on the agenda is approval for minutes for May 19th, 2025. All had a chance to look over the minutes. A motion to approve minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minute.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, raise the hand for approval for the minutes for May 19th, 2025. Mr. Goforth? That is unanimous. Next on the agenda is adjustment approval of the agenda. So far I have a removal and an addition. Remove new business number 6, bid for painting project at Catawba Elementary and Jacobs Fort, Asian High School in St. Stephen. That has been replaced with a new business number 6. Approval of owner contractor agreements between the Catawba County Board of Education and Marlowe Building Company, modular mobile unit installations at Balls Creek and St. Stephen. Is there anything else that needs added or adjusted? Hearing none, I seek a motion for approval of the approval of the agenda, June 9th, 2025 meeting.
Make a motion.
Second. Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to see a raise of hand for approval for the agenda. That's unanimous. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's recognitions by Dr. Matt Stover.
Thank you, Chairman Settermeyer. We'll do those our second meeting of this month. We got some archers coming in and some other awards to give out. Should be a good night.
Okay. Next item are consent items, personnel consent report, overnight out-of-state field trips, donations, and on-site summer camp requests. Look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the consent items.
I second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, do I raise the hand for approval? That is unanimous. Next on the agenda is approval of 2025-2026 renewal quote for ClassLink license presented by Mr. Marty Sharp.
I need to unmute that mic, I apologize. Trying to multitask. Again, my apologies.
You're good, you're good.
Board Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, come in front of you today to discuss a renewal for ClassLink. For those who don't know what ClassLink is, we use the term CCS Engage. That's kind of the marketing piece that we use for ClassLink. What this is, it's as soon as you turn on your Chromebook, you'll notice there's a CCS Engage login. It allows you to log into your machine. And you'll probably also notice once you log in, you'll see icons that are listed. We call this our digital portal. We use it for pretty much everything that we do digitally within our district. We try to make it as easy as possible for students, staff, everyone to be able to click on icons to go directly to resources as opposed to putting them on a website and having to search for them. That's just a very basic piece of ClassLink. It goes much deeper. It also rosters all of our products that we pay for. And when I'm talking about rostering, I'm talking about creating accounts and adminum and Savas and anything and everything that we use within our schools. Not only does it create accounts, but it also rosters classes. So that way teachers who are trying to use a product, let's say adminum, for example, they don't have to worry about adding kids, removing kids when they come and go. They don't have to worry about manually doing anything. We pretty much do that for them through ClassLink. And so I will say about 15 years ago, I did that. I was pretty much the person who was doing that for about 30 different services. And that's literally how I spent all of my time, is adding kids, removing kids, adding classes, removing classes, because we wanted to make sure that we took that pressure off of teachers, take that pressure off of media coordinators, take that pressure off of administrators. So again, ClassLink helps us do that. It uses our student information system, Infinite Campus, to pull that information in to be able to then to create accounts and everything for everyone. So again, I just want to kind of give a brief explanation of what it is. That way you'll know. Any questions about ClassLink or CCS Engage? You will see the price of it is, it's priced at, glasses on, sorry, $3.30 per user. And that ends up being $58,726.80. And then we do also add the rostering piece to that, which is an additional $13.50 for a grand total of $60,076.80. We typically utilize technology funding from the state to pay for this, and we already have it on our budget for next school year. Any questions?
There are no questions for Mr. Sharp. I'd like to give a motion for approval of 2025-2026 quote for ClassLink licenses.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve the renewal quote for ClassLink licenses that's been presented to us for 25-26.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none by raise of hand, show approval. Unanimous. Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
all.
Sharp. Next is approval of PIPS USA Purchasing Cooperative Contract with VPS Southeast Flooring for Media Center flooring replacements at Bandy's High School and Fred T. Ford High School, presented by Mr. Dan Moore.
Thank you, Chairman Settlemeyer, members of the board, Dr. Stover. Two quotes, one for Bandy's High School in the amount of $60,259.62, and at Fred T. Ford, $59,991.52. This is to replace the carpet in the media center and in the offices at both of those locations. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I would seek your approval.
How long does this carpet typically last?
That's a good question, Robert. Yes, it has. And we're using some of the vinyl plank flooring in some of the offices, and that's been well received as well. A little easier to clean up. But in the media center, we find that the carpet is what we want to continue to use.
There are no further questions for Mr. Moore on business item number 2, approval of TIF. Carpet contract. Motion and a second for approval.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion that we approve the contracts for the replacement of the media center flooring at Bandy's High School and Fred T. Ford as it's been presented to us.
I second.
Having a motion and a second, is there further discussion? Hearing none, I need a raise of hand for approval. That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Next is approval of bid quotes to purchase 3 new service vehicles for the maintenance department, presented by Mr. Dan Moore.
Yes, sir. We have 3 vehicles, a GM 1500 work grade pickup truck. Parent low bidder is Everett Chevrolet of Hickory in the amount of $47,500.66. A 2500 GM pickup truck, parent low bidder Everett Chevrolet of Hickory, $60,739. And a Chevrolet 2500 cargo van, parent low bidder Randy Marion Chevrolet of Statesville, $46,900. This is from capital outlay funds allotted by the commission. It is replacing a 2001 Dodge half-ton pickup, 212,000 miles, one 2004 Ford Ranger with 249,000 miles, and one Ford E350 van with 265,000 miles and multiple transmission repairs and a couple of replacements. So well needed and timely, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
If there are no questions for Mr. Moore, motion for approval of bid quotes to purchase 3 new service vehicles for the maintenance department.
I make the motion to accept the 3 service bids.
I second that.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, a show of raise of hands for approval of the vehicles, and that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Next is approval of construction change directive number 1, for HVAC replacement at Maiden Middle School.
Yes, sir. If you remember, a couple of months ago, we pre-purchased the HVAC units for that project, and that amount is listed here. That value was assigned to all of our bidders so that they would have the same number as they bid the project. We will pay that amount for those HVAC units. That'll be a deduct from the total construction price in the amount of $1,031,246. And that allows us, when we pre-purchase, to get discounts. And so that is something that we've done in the past. And so this is just clarifying that process. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
There are no questions for Mr. Moore. Business. Motion and a second for approval of construction change direct number 1 for HVAC middle school.
Make a motion that we seek approval for this.
I second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, seek a raised hand for approval of construction change directive number 1.
Thank you.
Next is approval of bid summary for modular unit installations at Balls Creek Elementary School and St. Stephen's Elementary School.
Yes, sir. 2 bids, both apparent low bidders are Moss Marlowe Building Company for both projects. At Balls Creek Elementary, $206,945. At St. Stephen's Elementary, $247,745. This is the for the installation of the modular units, very similar to what we had last summer at Charles Ford Elementary School. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
We don't own the units then, we're just renting them and they're installing them for this
Yes,
amount.
ma'am. It's 5 years is our lease agreement. And so there's, Moss Marlowe will make sure that the units have the appropriate electrical and plumbing and data. Last year, we did that more or less on our own, right at the end of the summer, and we've wisely passed that to a general contractor to help us handle that process. Yes, sir. The difference at St. Stephen's Elementary is because we have to go so far with sewer. That's really the difference there. We're very close at Balls Creek. Water, sewer, electrical is very close. We have to go a distance to St. Stephen's, and that's why it's more expensive.
Okay, I seek a motion and a second for approval of bid summary for modular unit installation at Balls Creek.
I make a motion for the bid for the modulars.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I need a show of raised hand for approval. That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Next is approval of owner contract agreements between the Catawba County Board of Education and Moss Marlowe Building Company.
Yes, sir. These are the contracts for the projects just presented. A standard agreement that our architect uses, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
These will be ready for the start of school.
Yes, sir. We pray. Yes, sir. Expected delivery is at the end of June, which is earlier than what we experienced last year. It was a full court press, but we made it happen. So,
Okay, I seek a motion and a second for approval of owner contract agreements between Catawba County Board of Education and Building Company for modular mobile unit installations at Balls Creek Elementary and St. Stephen's.
I'll make the motion.
I second the motion.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, raise of hand for approval. That is unanimous.
thank you.
Up next is approval of draft letter to state legislative members in support of statewide bond proposal presented by Dr. Matt Stover.
Thank you, Chairman Settlemeyer, members of the board. Put together a draft letter for you folks that we would share with our local representatives and senator. And please feel free to add or anything that you would like me to add or subtract. And if you all would like that, I can make those changes and still get them out this week. So it's up to y'all on what that is. We used some documents we were able to find through our governor and his initiative for the state bond. And then just to be transparent, as Marty always says we need to be, I put a lot of thoughts into ChatGPT, and then you got that professional letter in front of you. So great use of AI. So I want to give credit where credit's due. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, I think I was the one who'd brought up us doing this, and I appreciate Dr. Stover and ChatGPT coming up with this for us at Marty's suggestion. thank you for doing that. As a point I made at the last meeting, though, I just wanted to ask if we might just tweak it a little bit. You mentioned the Public School Bond Act of 2025, which is basically what the governor proposes, and I think that's fine, what you've said there. My point at the last meeting was that even if they're not in favor, even if it ends up being that the House or the Senate can't back that proposal, I wish that we could at least say that we would like for them to include in their budget some capital referendum for the public. And I just wondered at the end of that first paragraph, my point being that I think we have a better chance of getting a referendum for building capital projects in front of the public if they can't approve the boards or the governors, that at least they could approve one of their own, come up with one of their own. And we'd have, if the Senate includes a referendum in their budget and the House includes one in theirs, we're more likely to get that in a budget somewhere. And so I wondered if in the letter you've done at the end of the first paragraph, if we could say something like, request your support for the Public School Bond Act of 2025, or include a capital referendum of your own design in the final House or Senate budget. Something that we could say, if you can't go for the governors, come up with your own. We're in favor of a referendum, whoever designs it and comes up with it. And Ms. Davis and Kim's not here tonight, are our wordsmiths, but you can help us on how to do that. But something I just said, include a capital referendum of your own design in the final House or Senate budget. And I think on the back of the letter then, we would have to add something there too, where we say your support for the Public School Bond Act or a capital referendum of your own design or something. I'm open to the wording. I just would like to include that somewhere if the board agrees.
The last part, I thought I had tried to include something there. The last one, it says, as well as any additional grant funding opportunities. So when we met with them in our legislative committee, we'd asked them to earmark specific projects in the actual House and Senate. So that's why I referred there. But if I clear that up, if the board wants me to put specifically into their own budget our capital requests, that would be, so that's not a bond referendum, but that is a capital request. Would a capital request be okay versus a referendum?
I would suggest to take the bond referendum totally out of the list.
Yeah, so that we've seen where they have written those in for other counties, a specific, like a high school or a elementary or something like that.
That's totally different than what I'm suggesting.
Right, that's what I wanted to ask clarification.
Yeah. My preference is still that we have a public referendum on it, a capital referendum at some point.
Through
I'd
the
like to
House or
or
Senate
the
budget.
Senate, or-
Okay,
Or through the final budget period.
okay.
I have a question. So when's this supposed to be discussed through legislation? Do you know?
I don't know the exact date. I know that the governor's budget has already been, laid out. The House and Senate have their committees formed to negotiate their two budgets. And I don't know if it takes into consideration any of the governor's budget or not. And then they'll put together their budget, and then they'll look for approval. And then the governor can then act on that budget and either veto it or pass it or let it sit for 13 days or 12 days. I can't remember. But the timing of that, I'm unsure of. I think they are, too.
What you're saying, Dr. Stover. I'm certainly in favor of any additional grant funding opportunities. I like that part. I would just like to, my purpose was to ask them to be in favor of that public referendum that the governor's suggesting, and that if that one is not to their liking or their approval, that they come up with one of their
Create one of their own. I
Yes.
got you. Yep. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
We don't need to do anything else with this tonight.
I've heard, Dr. Barnett's and I've heard Mr. Mullis's request, so whatever you all come out with the majority of, then I can make those changes. I think there's a little bit of a disagreement on that. So I just want to make sure I'm clear before I do what I need to do.
I think Dr. Barnett, she made some good points there, and why I would step back away from the statewide bond, or what the governor's proposing is, under that proposal, you're asking the rest of the state to fork a lot of money to pay for Wake, Meck, Guilford, and Winston, Forsyth, and Cumberland counties' budgets. So I'm for the capital outlay. I just think under the governor's proposal, I think it needs to be tweaked on how we can fund that. So I would make the suggestion to take, just to reword it, but I just don't think the bond referendum is going to go in.
And of course, what you're referring to for the larger counties is under the governor's referendum proposal. But that's why I'd like to say that the House and the Senate design their own if they can't support that one. Because I don't think it has to be the governor's either. I think it needs to be a capital referendum that's put to the public, but it can be whatever the state and Senate design. That's why my wording was, and include a capital referendum of your own design in the final budget.
Sir, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not asking for a dollar amount, you're just asking their rules, their money, that kind of thing, correct? Okay.
That they design one of their own, at least include one in their budget.
Thank you for clarifying that. So I seek a motion and a second to change the wording to, if, kind of crude, but changing it from they can't go for the Public Bond Act of 2025 to possibly come up with their own version from the House or Senate. Bond referendums, statewide public building.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I would seek a motion and a second on those adjustments to the letter.
I make a motion that we approve the letter that Dr. Stover has presented to us with the changes that we mentioned tonight, to include a possible capital referendum designed by the Senate and House to be included in the letter, and that once he not corrects it, but edits it and sends it to us, that it be sent to our legislators this week.
Second that.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, a show of a raise of hands for approval. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Clarification, do you want everybody's signatures as it's spelled out here? Because you're saying send it this week. I think that was the motion, Dr. Barnett. Send it this week. You're saying with everybody's signature, just Dr. Stover's and
Well,
Chairman?
I'd love to see it go as soon as possible. They're working on their budgets now.
Yeah, if you give me a few minutes at the end of the meeting, it won't take me long to add something like that, and we could print it, and I could get you a version before you all leave tonight.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is approval of proposed amendments to Catawba County Board of Education Policy 3.8000, Testing and Assessment Program, presented by Ms. Crystal Davis.
year, which was just one of the first policies that we modified, and we're starting in the cycle again, that we modified in 2023. The state has modified high school end of course testing, and we're just making this policy consistent with the language set out in the State Board of Education policies. And so that would be in the changes would be in paragraph subsection B, high school end of course testing. And it actually states that the results of the EOC test and CTE state assessments will count as 20% of a student's final grade in each high school course for which there is an EOC test or CTE, except with the exception of the following, and that would be English learner students in their first year in a U.S. school. Two, the other exception would be students following the occupational course of study pathway or whose IEP otherwise exclude their EOC results. And three, students enrolled in a course during the initial implementation year of a new assessment for that course where proficiency scores are not available due to standard testing. The other recommended change is number 5, subsection C, number 5 on the last page, is the requirement that a report of local standardized testing be provided to the board for review in even-numbered years, and if required, a plan for reducing the time spent on such testing is subsequently prepared and submitted to the State Board of Education in compliance with state law. So those are the two changes that we're asking for under 3.8000. And Mr. Miller has reviewed those. Actually, and Mr. Ramsey as well.
Are there any questions for Ms. Davis? Hearing none, I seek approval of proposed amendments to Catawba County Board of Education Policy 3.8000, Testing and Assessment Program.
Make a motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, raise of hand for approval. That's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Next on the agenda is a review of assigned board goals and action steps by Catawba County Board of Education members. I got this to you Friday. There are no questions on who I signed what. We need to just kind of go through and make changes to the timelines on these things, because some of them have already passed, obviously.
Mr. Chairman, I did have just a couple of questions. I think it is in goal 12 and 13, must be number 12. Let me look at it for just a minute.
Okay.
I know that you'd said it's done and ongoing, which isn't possible, but
Well,
I think it is, what you mean is some parts of it may be completed, and, but with number 12, the board and superintendent relationship communications, I was actually looking for the one that, I think it's goal 10 that you've marked done, the C&I presentation at working sessions. Let me look back at it for just a minute.
okay.
That says staff provide informational sessions during our work sessions to educate the board regarding curriculum initiatives that will be addressed or approved in future board meetings. and I know you've put that that's done, and that's being done, definitely. But for instance, tonight, one of the first things we heard about was ClassLink. We had to approve ClassLink, and Ed Minham was mentioned during there. And I would dare say, if we asked members of the board, what's ClassLink and Ed Minham, we couldn't say. What I'd really like to see us do is spend some time at our work sessions and even visits at school, finding out what these things are. I'm not in any way feeling like you're not being transparent. I think you are, and I know what Ed Minham is. I've worked with it, but I think there's so much for us to learn about what these programs are. And I think what this actually asks us to do is that at our work sessions, things that we know maybe are going to have to be approved that year, or maybe just a regular routine of going over with the board what kinds of programs we use, what they are. When we go out to visit schools, make reference to them, or if it's something we can see in action when we're out in schools. I just would like to learn more about what the programs really are that we're using in our schools. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, I think Marty was just using that minimum as an example.
Oh, yes, he was, and I was just using it as an example too. I was just using it as an example too, but there's so many things that we're called on to approve that, you know, they give us the little 3-minute, the best they can in the time they're allotted here to know what it is we're voting on. But I think during our work sessions, time could be well used to learn about more in depth what these programs are.
Like you said, when we go on our school visits, good to see them, talk about them when we're there. A lot of CTE when we go on. But that minimum and things like that being used, but yeah, that'll help, surely.
Ask, as we are assigned to these different areas, it's not that we're expected to be the expert on our area, but that we bring in the experts, or we make sure the board gets expert training on these things. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So looking at this tonight, where I've assigned you, want to, by our next meeting, just after you've had a chance to look over it, give me some dates when you process, and if you have questions. Kind of. I'd forgotten about it, but when Debbie reminded me when week, I was like, okay. Forget about this meeting, but something else, so I kind of made some changes to it and some things like that. Have it on your radar for coming up.
Chairman Settlemyer, our team is also available too, so if you all have any questions about one of your particular goals, contact any one of us that we're responsible for, and we'd be happy to work with you on that as well.
Dr. Stover. Next item on the agenda is the discussion on the timeline for completion of the superintendent's evaluation, presented by Ms. Crystal Davis.
Yes, each year at this time, around about, the superintendent, or the board considers the superintendent's evaluation. And as you recall, in the past, that is done by surveying the board members. New board members may not be aware of that. There's 2 separate pieces to this, and also a separate survey from the cabinet directors, principals, and assistant principals, sorry. So cabinet, which includes the assistant superintendents, directors, and principals and assistant. And usually, that's it, each year it varies. This is a strange time of year. So normally at a minimum, we, send the board marks the date to send the surveys out electronically to those two groups. They are different surveys. We have, used the same ones, I think, for the past, at least 3 years, maybe 4 years. And at a minimum, we give 15 days to respond. And sometimes it's been 30 days, 45. We just see the number of responses we get and keep sending out reminders. I would suggest a minimum of 20, 25 days to respond, but then in between, I can send out reminders. Then those come to one central location. They are anonymous, and they are compiled in both a graph form. Actually, the graph form is a linear horizontal graph form, which shows the responses, the 4 choices, and then the compilation of comments from anybody who wants to make a comment. So we really just need to set a time for those to go out and to those 2 groups, and then periodic reminders between the times that they're due. Does that make sense?
Is this something that's already set up? We can send it tomorrow if we need to? or-
Yeah, I'd probably need a couple days. I'd say by this Friday, but I'd want to send it out fresh, maybe I could probably get it done by this Wednesday, but it is already set up. I just want to make sure we review it. I'd say Wednesday.
Was Wednesday a good day for them to get it, or? is it-
That's the question. Yeah, that's going to be probably a better answer by Dr. Stover and staff. I don't know if Friday's a good day.
I wouldn't, Friday. they're
No,
closed.
yeah, I
Oh,
wouldn't.
that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. I'm sorry.
That'd be one of them
Yeah.
weekend emails you might not. get.
Yeah,
I would do, I'd say Wednesday or Monday. I wouldn't.
Wednesday or Monday. So either one. And then set a time for it to expire, reports be given back, and then I'll do reminders.
What seems to be the holdup with people not responding?
Well, yeah,
Well, a lot of our APs are 10-month employees too, so that can be a deterrent, obviously, if you're not checking your email. Typically, our APs are, but maybe only once a week versus every day.
It's not something you can do real quickly. You have to give it some thought, and you see it and you think, I'm going to get to that when I have more time. And
yeah.
they don't ever have any more time.
And there is a factor of some people maybe just being hired, and they think, oh, well, I don't have anything to, and they elect not to do it. They get it, but they elect not to do it.
So if we say you send it out Wednesday, the 11th, we would want it back by 25th.
Yep. And so that would be after our 23rd board meeting. Oh, do we have 2 meetings in July? No.
If we want it back before then,
Well,
18th. Or the 20th,
no, that's not enough time. It's an odd time to,
that would only give them a week to do it. If we-
yeah. Oh,
They could still get the data and then work on their own before the end of July, if they would want to do that.
oh, they could the board
Yeah,
can
so
get
they
the
could
data.
get the data so they could work on their evaluation
Yeah.
by the July meeting. And then if you all had yours
Well,
done by
before the requirement or the board, and it's up to the board, that's another thing. Before the board elected to send out both parts at the same time, and that the board's review not include their review of the staff, and I'm not saying staff. So the board completed theirs without reviewing the independent
Oh,
staff's
okay.
review. So I would say,
You're saying we wouldn't be able to see the results from this until the July meeting?
right, unless you wanted
Too
to,
late to do his evaluation.
it's not too late. It's annually, but
We're doing it every other year now, right?
We do the evaluation every year.
Okay.
But
Your
the
contract.
Contract is every other year.
Yeah.
the evaluation is required by statute for him.
We have a completion date, we need to have the,
I would say by the end of July. I mean, at least. I mean, we've actually gone into August before. In my opinion, I think right now things are things. I mean, there's still work days, and I think it's probably best to get it out now, and then I can monitor if the board's okay with you all. Monitor the response with the chairman and the superintendent, and just say what's your inclination. You want to extend the time. That's what we did last year.
I think the work days are done.
Yeah, the
What-
official work days are done. Now, we might have some of our 11-month APs that are still working.
Some doing summer school.
I guess to me, it's still fresh in their mind. They might be.
Okay.
Or so, it's up to y'all.
So we need a motion to send it out on the 11th, get the results by the 25th.
Yeah. And then and if it's okay with you, before the 25th, I'll let you know, Mr. Chairman, and the superintendent know what kind of response, and they can determine then whether they want to extend the time and send out a reminder.
All right, so, after a little discussion about that, I'd like to see the survey sent out on June 11th and returned by June 25th. Is there any questions about that? Is that okay with everybody? I need a motion, a second. Fair?
Make a motion, we send out the 11th to the 25th.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, shall raise a hand. That's unanimous. Thank you.
We need to decide when ours will be, that we do, or we're going to do ours
same
in the
time,
same,
yeah.
okay.
We will need to go into closed session tonight for
Yep.
personnel.
Yes, and we have a personnel, attorney-client privilege information, and I don't know if we have any student information you wanted to, because that's a separate. Did you have any confidential?
No, we don't have any student,
Okay,
everything but student.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I need a motion and a second to go into closed session for attorney privilege, personnel reasons, and property reasons.
Make a motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, shall raise your hand. Unanimous, we're now in closed session.